Hi everyone, welcome to our Trans and Queer Youth Power Training Series. This is our Organizing for Change GSAs Part 1 of 3. Thank you for watching today's video. As we go into our training today, I welcome you all to please view Parts 2 and Part 3 so you get the full scope of our training topic today, which is Organizing for Change. My name is Tony Ortuño. I'm the Senior Statewide Organizer with GSA Network. My pronouns are he and him. I'm currently on occupied Tongaland, also known as Los Angeles. GSA Network, or Genders and Sexuality Alliance Network, we are a next generation LGBTQ racial and gender justice org that empowers and trains queer, trans, and allied youth leaders to advocate, organize, and mobilize an intersectional movement for safer schools and healthier communities. And we do this by organizing with GSA clubs, Gender Sexuality Alliance clubs, LGBT youth clubs, pride clubs, and any other community organization that is really working to create safer and healthy communities for our LGBTQ plus youth of color. Today's workshop objective is to define and demonstrate what is organizing, specifically through a case study of ACT-UP's STORM, the NIH, or National Institute of Health Action, that happened a little over 30 years ago now. And so we'll share again what is organizing, and then share kind of a case study of an example of what organizing could look like as well. Okay, so when we talk about organizing, we really think about it as it being when people come together to build collective power in order to win improvements in their lives and find long-term solutions to their problems. So for GSAs, for example, right, in terms of organizing, we can think about it as, GSAs really building collective power to win improvements for themselves as, trans and queer youth, and find long-term solutions to the issues impacting them at their schools. We'll go over a specific example of how GSAs have organized in the past in Part 3 of this training, so make sure you check that out. But let's break it down a little bit more, right? So yes, organizing is when folks come together, to find solutions to their problems. But what is specifically youth organizing? And so for youth organizing, it's really the process of young people coming together to build their collective power. So it's very similar, right, in terms of organizing, but in this particular case, it's young people coming together to build collective power to really win those improvements for themselves and challenge power structures. And for a lot of GSAs, it would be, the power structure potentially of, the homophobia, transphobia that's happening within their schools. So just kind of thinking of youth organizing in that way. Now, an organizer, right, is more of just an individual who is focused on building the work to expand their base. So, right, so maybe a GSA leader would be an organizer who can expand their base of GSA members, so grow their membership. They can raise questions together. They can develop strategies with other people, recruit leaders, and then in general, just really assist in any tactics that may be necessary to achieve a specific campaign goal. We'll go over campaigns soon, but for now, just, individually, that's what an organizer would do, and that's what their role would be. And so an individual organizer who's part of youth organizing can bring young people together to really make change happen for themselves and for each other at their institutions, and challenge power structures. So now going into defining a campaign. So in this case, a campaign is an organized course of action to achieve a goal, or an intensive, sustained organizing fight that uses the collective power of a base. So in this case, potentially could be your GSA would be your base, to strike at a target until it meets your demands. Each campaign has, different demands. Each campaign has a different base. The fight for what they're, trying to win looks different for each campaign. And campaigns typically, seek to organize around objectives that are not limited to things like influencing or introducing a policy. So things like inclusive sexual health education, resisting any pre-existing laws or social cultural attitudes. So really challenging and resisting things like transphobia, homophobia, racism. Um, it also, confronts larger oppressive institutions. As I mentioned earlier, things like your schools could be considered an institution. And they also influence decision-making at a local, state, or national level. For folks who are more local, it could be people like your school board members or even principals, right? So thinking about kind of the breakdown of a campaign. We'll talk more in detail about a breakdown of a campaign in part 2 of 3, so make sure you also check that out. Okay, so a case study around ACT UP, or AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power. ACT UP again was formed in 1987 and took numerous campaign actions. And really, ACT UP was formed out of this necessity to challenge our institutions because they were not actively finding solutions to the problems around folks contracting HIV, and having in numerous amounts of suffering and deaths in our community because our government was not acting. One of these actions that were organized by ACT UP was Storm the NIH, or the National Institute of Health event in 1990. It was really organized to really challenge what drug trials were happening, so that there were more equitable and accessible experimental life saving HIV medications for our communities. And so the organization really challenged the institution to demand more accessible and life-saving HIV medications. Eventually, in 1990, the FDA did adopt this approach and made selected drugs available to HIV-positive patients. So this was a big win for our communities. But again, it wasn't because institutions decided that they wanted to provide this resource for our communities kind of, overnight. It was because our communities really challenged and pushed institutions in power to give us the resources that we needed. So this is just kind of an example of a campaign. The organization itself definitely organized several other actions, but this is kind of a perfect example of what we think of when we think of a campaign and really pushing institution of power to give us what we want. So again, make sure you check out part 2 and part 3 for more information. But if you want info on this part 1 training, make sure to reach out to us to our email and check out our videos on our resources page. If you want some updates and support, make sure to reach out to us and to a local organizer. You can also subscribe to our text messages by texting GSAs for Justice to 52886. Make sure to follow us on our social media pages at GSA Network on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And for those in California, you can also follow our GSA Network CA on Facebook and Twitter as well for more updates. California GSA clubs, please register for our Discord channel, Discord server. We'll have several channel discussions. We'll have more dates to come, but you can definitely visit our website for more information. You can also join our membership meetings on Zoom. Our next one is happening on February 3rd, 2022 from 5 to 7 p.m. All you have to do is register at gsanetwork.org/CA. And that's it for this part 1. Make sure to check out part 2 of 3, where we will review and understand the steps of a campaign cycle. Take care.